Welcome back. And day 5 has been incredible. All of the days have been incredible. And we are rounding out day 5 with no disappointments. I am here with MaryAnna, and I am so excited because I think I've told you this ever since I first met you. I've been wildly intrigued with your resume. And so let me tell you a little bit about MaryAnna Clemons before we kind of dive into the questions. She is known as the Drama Detox Lady. I think we could all use that in our lives. And she deals in high conflict mediation. She welcomes families who are looking for reconciliation or individuals trying to come to terms with their new reality of estrangement, alienation, divorce, or other life-changing situations. She is also a forensic medium who has worked with law enforcement, families, and private investigators. She has a graduate education in liberal studies with an emphasis in criminal justice. She has been a previous journalist, publisher, business owner, author, I say best-selling author, editor, and just so much more. Her first book, Ethical Mediumship, will be released in the summer of this year, 2024. And she speaks to groups or associations about the reality of forensic mediumship and is always looking to assist in cold cases, murdered, missing, and more. As a mentor, you can choose to work one-on-one with MaryAnna, or you can join in a class. And she's got a lot of opportunities. You're going to see some links right below this video, and I really invite you to explore what that looks like. Welcome, welcome. Congratulations on becoming
Hello.
a best-selling author, and welcome to the stage. This is incredible. How's this journey been for you so far?
Well, this is crazy, and I need to get best-selling to my resume and all my marketing.
Yes.
I really love the group of people that were kind of brought together through this process. That was very eclectic. It was very far-reaching. No two people in that book are the same. No two people in that book. Um, it's amazing.
I love it. I call this the handbook for the living. And I love
I
that
like
we're
that.
rounding out day 5 with you, because when we talk about like what you do and who you are, alienation, divorce, estrangement, all of those things, I think we've all been touched by. I really do. I myself still to this day have family that I don't communicate with because we've had loss, as you know, and that loss has just brought further and further distance. So I really want to dive in here because I think every listener is going to lean in and say, wow, wow. So let's start with your title. We call you the Drama Detox Lady, and it is super catchy, but what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for putting this together because I really do love the ability to reach out to people who may not otherwise know that there's other people out there going through the same things that they're going through. This can feel very isolated when you're in this position and when you think that you don't always want to go to social media, right? You don't want to go out there and be the one that's talking about it. So when you're able to get to understand so many other people are in this place that you're also in, it is about, so what I do is I help people break free, right, from the emotional intensity of a lot of the feelings that this can raise within you and the negativity within your life. I mean, the bottom line is we have to move forward or take ourselves out of the game, and that's not an option. So moving forward is incredibly important, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things I do help is I help you identify, right, the drama or the trends that may be holding you back at this point. This can come from anything from work to stress to kids to in-laws to divorce to estrangement to alienation. And I help you develop the tools to manage your emotions and your reactions more effectively. Honestly, if I could say that one of the biggest things I've learned is how to respond versus react. And then I
Mm.
also help you learn to set boundaries with people and situations. But there's a nuance within there is that a boundary is not an ultimatum. A boundary is about you. Ultimatums are about trying to control others. And so it's these nuances that some people are like, well, that makes sense, but they haven't heard it before, or maybe they haven't had that conversation before. And then ultimately, I really help you cultivate that inner peace through like self trust, confidence, how to counteract negativity, how to understand your own boundaries. And then by detoxing from the drama, right? Drama Detox Lady, um, people can create the more fulfilling, positive relationships and experiences that they're looking for. None of us are looking to stay here miserably. We're looking to try to live, love, and have fun.
Well, you had me at in-laws, so I really think, and this is why I was so excited to have you and your contributions, not only to the book, but to the summit as well. This to me feels like human 101, right? We all come from backgrounds, we all come from rough upbringings, and most of us do. I shouldn't, speculate, but this to me is like, instead of having to reparent yourself, you're giving us an opportunity to kind of shed that outer shell that doesn't serve us and really grow into not only the best version of ourselves, but the best version that continues to put out amazing ripple effects so that we all have a great human experience. And so what I see from what you do really pertains to all humans, right? And I don't,
Absolutely.
if I'm putting you on a pedestal, you deserve to be there. But I'd
Oh,
love to know from your perspective, like, who is your ideal client? Who is that ideal audience for you? And do they have any kind of specific struggles that you help them with? Because I see you as just a well-rounded badass.
I'm a little, it's funny. I am a bit of a well-rounded jack of all trades, right? Although I also master quite a few. And the thing about people of our age, experience, resilience is that we've bounced back, right? Remember the weebles and the wobbles, but I don't fall down. You remember
Yes,
that? I don't know if you remember those, but
I do.
but and people like to make fun of Gen X, but I tell you what, we weeble, we wobble, and we don't fall down. But more or less, my ideal client and audience is kind of me, right? It's a little bit of me, it's a little bit of you, it's a little bit of a kid, it's a little bit of a dad, somebody who craves less negativity, like being constantly exhausted from the emotional turmoil, sometimes of just life. And mediation is not therapy, it's a way to move forward. And so I want to be really clear about that. I'm not a therapist. I'm not going to be taking you back through your childhood. We're not going to relive memories, right? We're ready for change. We're ready to move forward. What does that look like? So that's the life coach part. Then there's the mediator part. And then I do and I'm ADHD, as are a lot of people in this space. And so I am also that forensic medium. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I bring through the most within mediumship readings are apologies.
Mm.
Apologies to the people that are still down here on earth. And it trends sometimes. It's incredibly impactful. It creates a healing, it creates a closure to someone who maybe didn't hear that apology otherwise. Even if someone apologizes to you, sometimes you don't necessarily hear it until you're ready to hear it. And that's
Oh,
also super important. People that also want to take responsibility. You can't sit in the pigsty and not get some mud on you. You have to be willing to look at what your part is in any dysfunction. I'll use a personal example is that I did used to use some guilt tripping language, right? Like, well, I would do it for you. Well, if you loved me, you would help me. Those are actually guilt tripping comments that I really had to step back and say, okay, what part of this do I need to change about myself in order to also move forward and respect others? And then kind of the specific struggles I help people address. Honestly, there's probably too many to list, but people pleasing. We
yeah,
really have
big
to get
one.
out of this people pleasing. Some of us were born just to just to kind of help others, and we missed our own initiations and our own high points along the way. People who ruminate, if you're stuck in these negative thinking loops, it can really bring you down. You turn into your own um, energy vampire, and that never works. Boundaries challenged. There's a lot of people, and I say this with kindness because I am 56. 56 and older, we'll just go there. Sometimes we don't know how to update our in-person when you update your phone, your iOS, right, your software, we update that on a regular basis. There's some of us that have not updated our internal software, and we need to. It's no longer considered a compliment to just drop by someone's house. You need to
Right.
take first. You need to text first. You need to call first, and you need to respect those boundaries that, by and large, I hate to say it this way, but like the younger generation is like, oh, that changed. And some of the older people are, some of the older people are like, no, 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 this is a compliment. And the younger people are like, no, 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 that's not a compliment. So boundary challenged people, and then of course conflict avoidant and conflict addicted. We get
Mm.
addicted to sadness the way we get addicted to conflict, and we have to step away and almost become our own observer in order to tackle what we need to tackle to move forward. Yeah,
That's amazing. And honestly, what you're saying is it's a new level of ownership, right? And so, how do we take that level of ownership? It's not always we're willing to wave this flag and say, hey, this is where I messed up. The ego is a very protective thing, and we want to be right and we want to pound our chest. So, I love how you help people navigate through it. And as a matter of fact, I mean, I don't want you to break any confidentiality, but can you share an example with us of a time you've helped someone experience a significant shift just away from that drama-filled pattern?
absolutely. And I'll just use a kind of a high level one, right? So we'll call her Sarah. She was consistently basically having like coworker conflicts, office gossip. Her constant reality was leaving her stressed, unhappy, etc. So we got into that pattern recognition. We need to be able to recognize our own trending,
Mm.
right? I'm trending toward sadness. I'm trending toward excuses. I'm trending toward gossip. I'm trending toward this. And we need to be able to recognize that, sit down, be honest about it, at least with ourselves, if not everyone else, right? And so that pattern recognition, and venting. So at work you don't vent at work. And a lot of people don't understand that work is not necessarily where you make friends, right? Work is work, and you need to have some of those boundaries in place so that you kind of don't get screwed in the process, to be quite frank. And then
Absolutely.
a communication, we revamped it, right? And we started talking about reacting. We started talking about choosing words. We started talking about how this is not the place to talk about your third boyfriend, Mike, and his stepkids, and your battle with groceries.
Yeah.
Um, and so, and then we also worked on empathy. Um, Understanding people need to understand her, but she also needed to understand other people. And unfortunately, I really do think that in this space right now, for whatever reason, people have kind of lost sight of being empathetic to others. And that runs the gamut from parents to kids to coworkers to bosses to the guy in the corner. We're a little bit desensitized to being and having empathy. Basically, I would love to say her work life transformed, but it was also a process, right?
Sure.
And so she did actually end up transforming it, but it's not like it happened overnight. This
Right.
is a process. This is revisiting what's working, after action reports for yourself. I
Yeah.
tried this, it didn't work. I tried this, it didn't work. I'm going to try this now. So revisiting what works and what doesn't work is really underrated. And so once people stop basically doing the autopilot and they learn to bring in the new skills, they learn to update their software, so to speak, they can go into it with a different attitude and a different perspective. And people recognize it when your energy changes. And that's a super important part that I work with people on their energy. So having been, or I am, a forensic medium, we work with energy a ton,
Amazing.
just a ton. There's this one example really fast. Marilyn Monroe was on a subway back in the day, and I'm paraphrasing this and probably butchering it as well. But Marilyn Monroe was on a subway in, like, I think it was New York, and she was with a reporter, and she was wearing a headscarf, and she was demure, and she was not Marilyn, right? She was whatever I can't remember what her
Alter
original
ego.
name was.
Oh, okay.
Um, and then she said, "Do you want to see it?" And he said, "Do I want to see what?" And she said, "Do you want to see it?" And he goes, sure. Like, not sure what she's talking. She took off the headscarf and she brought in her energy, and she was suddenly
Oh,
Marilyn Monroe. And everyone on the subway was like, oh, and suddenly they knew she was Marilyn. So she legitimately went from, what was her name? Doggone it. Everybody watching this is going to be like, it was, I know. Um, Mary Jean, no, anyway, she went from that person to Marilyn.
oh
And
my
this
God.
Yes. And this is what we can do with our own energy, and learning to play with our own energy, and learning to bring in our own energy, and learning that confidence that we were always supposed to be the person that we're trying to be, and bringing in that energy to support it.
Amazing, MaryAnna. It's amazing. And to me, it feels like it is obviously a journey. It's a process, like you said. And it feels like the first step is obviously awareness, but you're helping people develop like their red flag system, right? We all know what a red flag is. It's like, oh, hold on, it's caution. So you're helping them develop. To me, I mean, I'm glad you're doing this and not me, because it feels like a lot of work. And there's people who've been put on this planet to do this kind of work, like yourself. So I'm now kind of curious, like, what inspired you to create Drama Detox Lady? And is I'm sure there is a personal connection to the work that you're doing.
100%, of course, right? Um, I grew up, a lot of people throw the word narcissist around nowadays, and
Yeah.
the reality is that we used to just call them selfish jerks back in the day, right? We didn't have all these terms, and we didn't have all these, red flags to look for. We just got through life. And so growing up with that, you tend to marry that, and then you tend to emulate that, and it becomes a struggle. So
Mm,
people pleasing and conflict avoidance really is who I was, right? And that tends to backfire in the end. So growing up, I was the peacekeeper. I was always trying to smooth things over for my mom. I always wanted to avoid conflict until the day I didn't, and then I had to practice not being a bully, right? Because even good people break. And
yeah.
so I carried that into my marriage. Then being a mother, I found my happiness in other people, doing for them. I neglected myself to the extreme. And
Mm,
that's a dead end, because then came divorce, then came parental alienation. And now I'm in a space where moving forward is the only option. And that's where I bring my personal experience into helping others, looking at their strengths, looking at their weaknesses, helping them decide what part was you? What part
yeah.
do you need to change? And what part was someone else, or what part was just life that got in the way? Drama is inherent, right? Into toxic environments. Kind of like I just said, the pigsty, you got to clean up your own room, so to speak, also. So once you remove yourself from that environment, and you now have to recognize what part you added to the drama, so that you don't repeat the same thing. There's some I have an old friend, old acquaintance, whatever you want to call her, and she just kept attracting the same kind of men. And I'm like, listen, there's a lesson somewhere
Mm,
in there, and you keep getting it into a different person shows up, but the lesson apparently is the same, because you keep detracting it, or you keep actively looking for it. One of the two, right? We do tend to be, listen, toxic people are exciting. Let's just be honest, right?
never a dull moment for sure.
Absolutely. And so I would fall into patterns of overthinking, internalized blame, shame, guilt, internal gaslighting. We tend to gaslight the shit out of ourselves. I'm so sorry.
No, please.
Oh, okay. I
You're fine.
was
Yeah.
doing so well. We tend to gaslight ourselves even, right? And so we need to the self-work, the education, the training. I've learned to move forward in a more healthy way. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. Am I never going to make a mistake again? Absolutely not. But I'm taking it forward into the healthiest way that I can, for myself, for others, for friends, for family, etc. And so that's what I'm helping people do, is find out where the healthy you is, so
Yeah.
you can go forward with that person.
Amazing. I mean, friends, if you're leaning in and listening to MaryAnna, I mean, like just her journey alone, what I've heard from you is like there's a point where if you don't rise to the occasion in a sense of like gripping for those boundaries and saying, hey, you're going to lose yourself in the process. And that is exhausting, right? I think that's more tiring and more exhausting than standing up, taking ownership, fighting back, finding those red flags, stepping into accountability. And MaryAnna, let's face it, we know that this world is full of potential for drama, right? Especially like things with social media. It's so hard. So I'd love to know what tips, if any, that you have for people looking to create just a little more peace in their everyday lives.
Absolutely. So one of the things I did consciously and purposely is I really don't involve myself with the news. I can't
Mm,
stop it. I can't change it. I
yep.
can't be responsible for the entire world. So I don't watch the news. I do get involved locally. I do get involved with my local news. I get involved with local elections. And of course, I vote at the federal level. But politically and news, they create so much drama within the family dynamic alone that if everyone just kind of stepped away and said, that's your opinion, this is my opinion, let's move forward and play cards, right?
Yeah.
You get a different vibe from that. So really mindful media consumption. And even though I'm on TikTok, I tell people regularly, it might be time to put it down and move away from it. Um, there's this thing called trauma talk, right? And people
Mhm.
just stay in this space of negativity and they stay in this space of victimization. And it isn't good for you. It isn't good for the person that you're interacting with. Practicing non-reactivity. I love this. So taking a pause before you do something, but also is it fact or is it feeling? Is it emotion or is it a reaction from being triggered? All of these things, right? Am I being triggered or am I actually reacting to factually as you can get? Right? Because everybody's like, this is a fact. Well, that's also subjective sometimes. And so taking just that moment and just that asking yourself that question, like, am I responding to this the right way or am I responding to this because I'm triggered is really important. Don't feed the trolls.
Yeah.
Like, don't feed the trolls, whether that's in life or whether that's on social media. We don't need to put other people down. It doesn't do anything for us to stay in a negative mindset. Cultivating perspective. If you zoom out and you become your own neutral third party, if you suddenly become the observer in your life, what would you tell you? Right?
Good.
And so, and then a gratitude shift. I am incredibly grateful that I'm still here. Number one, some of us grew up with childhoods where we didn't plan ahead, right? We
Yeah.
were like, I'll never make it to 56. Those were the old people, and here I am, right? And so being grateful for that, having gratitude, this sounds horribly woo woo, but I walk outside for the sunrise and I say thank you, to the sun. And that might sound silly to some people, but it is the gratitude that I get one more day to try to fix things, if you will. Fix me, fix thing. Oh, there's my fixing gene again. So I need sometimes I have to focus on what I can control. And then you have to surround yourself with the right energy and nurture those positive connections. One
Yes.
of the things I have allowed myself to do is to get rid of people, and I say this with kindness, but they weren't on the same train tracks, right? They for whatever reason. I mean, I don't need to sit here and put them down right now. That would make me a hypocrite. But I let those go, right? And so as those kind of phased themselves out, I added different people into my life who were a little more positive, a little more fun.
Yeah. It's an amazing journey just to kind of watch and hear you and listen. I'm visualizing so much of like, feels like first you kind of rebuild that self-worth, right? So that you can recognize and not necessarily take or aim the blame, but it's setting and compartmentalizing, where do my boundaries fit? How do I move forward? So you're reconstructing, and that's why I called it human 101. This is so needed. And I don't want to derail our train here, but everyone knows me as the Pinterest trainer. It's just the way that it is. And the CEO of Pinterest, he partnered with the Digital Wellness Lab out of Boston Children's Hospital, as well as UC Berkeley. And they did a study with Gen Z to prove just 10 minutes a day on Pinterest left people feeling happier, less isolated, less stressed out compared to social media. And it goes to what you're saying about like TikTok and other things. They called it engagement through enragement. And I'm
Oh,
just sitting there
wow.
taking in what you're saying. And I'm like, there's just so much validity to this. And I I've thoroughly enjoyed what you bring to the table. I wish we had more time because I would love for this conversation to keep going. I've said this a
I,
lot
I,
through
I
this.
would love to jump in really fast
Yeah,
because
please do.
engagement through enragement is an amazing term. And I'm actually creating my Pinterest because of you. And
Oh,
so I am trying to move into other spaces where people can read it, take it in, and think about it for themselves instead of taking in a million different opinions about how they should feel. We need to be taking in our own opinion. We need to
yeah.
actually be pushing away the energy of other people's opinions, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I love it and I concur. And by the way, I also go out in the morning with the sunrise and think and
Aw.
express gratitude. So I thought I was the only weirdo. So thank you for being a weirdo with me.
Oh, yes, I love it.
But I do think you'll agree with me that time is truly our most precious commodity. And I know that I've said that a lot. So I'm very, very grateful for your time and for the gift that you brought. So you're offering a call with you. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, well, basically, let me see if I can help you because I'm not the right fit for everyone. And what happens a lot of times is people will sign up for something, they'll spend their money and then find out later it's not a great fit. And I don't want to be that person. I would rather we take 10, 15 minutes and say, you know what, I don't think, for example, I told some people that wanted to come into a program that I have, if you're crying in the morning, you're crying in the afternoon, you go to bed crying, you haven't processed enough necessarily to come in and work with me to what I would like you to do. I'm not a therapist, right? And so there are people who are maybe not ready to go into a program that I have. And so we need to like work through that. So that's a simple conversation though, 10, 15-minute conversation. And if there's someone else that I can point you in the direction of, that's what I do, right? I don't want your money if I can't help you. It's that simple.
I feel like, at least in my world, because we're pretty new to each other, but I feel like you're a hidden gem. So there's someone watching right now, and I think they need you. I do. And guys, I schedule this call, please. It's complimentary, right? And you
Yes,
can have that
totally
conversation,
complimentary.
book the call. But how would I approach, let's say I'm listening to you and you've given us just so much truth and so much value today. Maybe there's someone kind of popping up in my mind that I think maybe might benefit from a conversation with you. How could I approach that invitation?
Well, that's a great question. I hadn't I hadn't actually thought of that. I mean, honestly, it depends on your relationship with that person. I do have an intermediary service. So if you are estranged or alienated from someone and you want to reach out, we can have a conversation on does this fit you right now, right? So let's say that for whatever reason you're alienated from a sister. And you haven't talked to a sister in a while, but you have her address. You come to me and I'm going to reach out as a third party nicely. Obviously, if you have a restraining order, this is not your program. But I'm going to reach out as that third person. We're going to craft a letter together. We're going to do that sort of a reach out. But if you just want to share my contact with info with someone, just say, hey, listen, she has a free conversation. I think she could help you. Right. And then send them the link.
Very cool.
They the worst they can do is ignore it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So your link, MaryAnna's link to get on her calendar is literally right below this video. Give yourself this gift, right? You owe it to yourself. You're worthy of this and just have the conversation. So I think we may have to bring you out for an encore on like a webinar or something because this is
Oh,
just
that would be so
fascinating.
fun.
So
That would be
thank you
so fun.
so much for your time. I mean that and your expertise and your willingness to share all that you did.
Thank you. Thanks for having us all.
My pleasure. All right. We will see you in the next video. What are we? Day 5 here? Day 5 is a wrap. I think it's day 5. I don't know
I
anymore.
don't even know.
Bye, friends.
All right. Have a good one.